Welcome to the Toffee TV podcast, Ped, Baz, and we are joined, which it seems like a very long time, by Andy the Pith, El Pivotto.
Well,
He's here. We haven't spoke to you for ages, it seems.
Well, you haven't because you ignored me, but I spoke to Baz earlier.
Yeah, we've done the numbers game, so me and Andy do talk, but it has been ages.
The numbers game,
regularly.
That's an exclusive show on Patreon, I believe.
It is an exclusive show on Patreon.
Well, subscriber, I've heard.
Very good, I've heard. I've never watched it.
Yeah, you don't need to watch it.
I sort of do. I've seen your Everton.
Yeah.
It's good to have you here, and it really is.
Thanks for that.
So let's get into it.
I'll try my best.
Fulham away. Now, you know what? We've spoken about this game, and we're probably really negative about it. So let's try and be a little bit more positive about it.
You're more negative.
No, you were as negative as me. I mean, negative isn't even a word I use for you anymore. I look at WhatsApp after the game, and Andy will back me up on this, right? Andy will back me up on this. Is that after a match that Everton play, whether we win or lose, everything becomes terrible to you. Like you'd find the nicest ice cream and have a bit and go, oh, that's foul. That's your world is completely upside down after an Everton game, isn't it, Andy? Come on, back me up here.
He's like Shallow Hal. He always finds a fault.
It's I hate that. Oh, me kids better get jobs. Oh, get out my house, Zach. You hate. It's time you got a job. Get out my house. Everything is just like doomsday scenario when Everton don't win. Like, oh, I hate him. Dominic Calvert-Lewin. See when he missed that. Like that. Honestly, you are like Jekyll and Hyde, but
I'm not.
Andy, you'll back me up.
I just think the whole footy thing with everyone is crap at the moment. All of it.
Football.
It is. It's embarrassing at the moment.
I love that. The other thing I love, and Andy will back me up, is this on this. Oh, who's top of the league? Spurs. They're crap. What about Leicester? They're crap. What about Southampton? They're crap. Everyone's crap.
Everyone is crap. Only Liverpool or anything. And they're crap.
I could tell by Andy's reaction. It's a box now.
See, half of it is to get...
We ruined Theo Walcott. He was... Look, he's gone back.
Shut up, that was Kane. Half of it is to wank Kane up. And the other half is...
I told you, keep Theo Walcott. Play him every week.
Don't enjoy it. No, it is rubbish without fans.
It's so bipolar.
Oh, it's amazing.
It's garbage.
So, we'll talk about the fan thing in a little bit. But, Andy, you know, during this game, during the first half, Everton played some absolutely brilliant football, didn't he?
I really enjoyed it. I was saying to Baz earlier, really, really quality football at times. The way we moved the ball, a player like James, you can find anyone on the pitch with his left foot, makes it worthwhile. But no, it was really good to watch. And at the end of the first half, I thought, that's right. Great. If we can repeat that in the second half, 7-8, 8-1, whatever, anything was possible. And then second half, I was positive. Yeah, I don't think Everton have got any issues scoring goals as long as they've got certain players on the pitch, of course. But obviously, is keeping goals out. But going forward, when people say we need to get this going forward, don't get me wrong, we do need depth, and we need different types of players to be able to choose from. But I don't think we've got any problem scoring goals at all. There's so many goals in the side. Well, it feels like there's so many goals in the side at the moment. And Charles hasn't even got scoring it.
Yeah, very true. I mean, and Baz, there was some really, really. You look at the second and the third goal. Some of that football when we go forward, some of the stuff we've seen in the early weeks, it's really, really good to watch. And the second goal was just brilliant.
Yeah, the first half, bar about 7 or 8 minutes either side of Fulham's equaliser, Everton were excellent. They really were, and we cut through them, and we adapted quite well to a new formation. And the players who come, it was great to have Richarlison back, and we said on the numbers game, he showed within 40 seconds what he brings to us, that directness. And you've got James pulling the string. Everything was not perfect, but everything was really good. It gives you that hope. And we have, in the main this season, we've created a lot of chances and scored a lot of goals when, like Andy said, when the right players are on the pitch. there's obviously issues in the second half, and we'll talk about them. But I think as the days go on, you know, the performance matters less and less. It's just, I think the problem with Sunday was we were so good in that first half, and you come off thinking could have been 5 or 6 that, and you want that in the second half. You want to enjoy the second half playing the same way, and then the second half was so poor that, and then because you're kind of hanging on at the end, you have like that taste in your mouth of, oh my God, why didn't you just put them to bed? And it makes you frustrated. But ultimately, the only thing that mattered in that game was the win. But you're right, we have at times, we played some fantastic stuff this season. Yeah,
of course, during the game, you're going to get annoyed, and after the game, you're going to get annoyed, because at the end of the day, I think a decent side, if you're in good form, a decent team's going to someone's going to put 6 or 7 past Fulham at some point, because I just think they're absolutely wide open. Whether they progress, John, and I know they have got tighter at the back, but someone's really going to give them a hiding, because they're just so open and made so many mistakes, and have so the players are ultimately not good enough, are they? So that's what disappointed me. It's I suppose we should have been like at least 4-5-1 coming off at second half and coming into the second half, and that's what annoyed me. It was just that we took our foot off the pedal, but by taking our foot off the pedal, we actually lost control, because we were so sloppy. Because it wasn't like anything they did. They didn't start pushing in our faces or anything. We just started giving the ball away really, really cheaply, and I suppose that's what annoyed me more than anything. And certainly, if we hadn't took the 3 points against such a poor side, that, you know, it would have been a huge missed opportunity. After, obviously, it paid into it as well that we hadn't won a game for what seemed like a very, very long time. So about 6 weeks, wasn't it? When you had the international breaks. Yeah. So I suppose that all played its part. But obviously, what did you make of the change, Andy, in the formation? Because obviously it's something we've spoke about a couple of times, and whether we're getting the best out of our players. And obviously having no Seamus Coleman means that it was a good opportunity, because there's no one really knocking on the door to take his place.
No, I think it was time, you know, in terms of playing the back three. The options were either play a back three, because we thought we had, with Godfrey and Holgate, we had enough, and obviously me and Keane being fit as well, we had enough there to have a good choice there. Obviously, I think Holgate probably needs to play with Godfrey and one of the 2 stoppers. But then the other option was move either Holgate or Godfrey into midfield in the 3. And I think, I think it was a good choice to play. Obviously, it'd be nice if we had more than 2 days to prepare, you know, using the formation, because I think, as we and Baz went over on the numbers game, you can subscribe to watch that. You know, it's very important that you get cohesive in that system, because they were a bit out of sorts at times. But overall, no, and I think it really helps for Luca Dean as well. I think it gets him higher and further forward, which obviously we saw, you know, he creates chances for us. And I think with Alex Iwobi, I think the difference between him and Seamus Coleman and John Joe Kenny, obviously was left out, is that he can help us build out from the back, because he's a bit more he was on Sunday, a bit more positive on the ball, whereas I find that Seamus and John Joe end up checking back, and they don't sort of push the ball forward. And I think that's why in the first half we were quite positive, got high and wide, and I think a lot of crosses into the box up worked well. Defensively, I think it's going to take us a couple of games, I'm going to be honest, but yeah, I thought it was positive.
It was. It's the second half, the disappointment was that even if you come out and you're tired, which we quite evidently were, we needed to push our wing-backs higher up the pitch, because we talk about the gap in between the midfield and the centre-backs. That partly is because the centre-backs are scared of anyone running in behind them, so they drop naturally deeper. But everyone dropped, so as we were getting pushed further back, the minute you go and sit on the edge of your box in a 5, and then you'd have 2 midfielders in front of them, you've got 7 men, it opens the whole pitch up for the opposition to have the ball, which is what we did. And that's fine if you do kind of what we did against Brighton, which was suck them onto us and then hit them on the break, but we weren't doing it. So, you know, that's where your players have got to really, you know, push up, move up the pitch, get your 2 wing-backs as high up in the second half as they were in the first half, and create them problems, because poor Dominic Calvert-Lewin in the second half was just fighting a battle with 3 centre-backs on his own. You know, and it becomes giving them the ball and you have to defend again. It was almost like defence v attack training drill in the second half. You know, how can you keep them out?
I think you've got to... Sorry, Ped.
Go on, mate. Go on.
I think that when you suck people onto you like that, and I think you're basically making it a back five, I think basically you just haven't allowed their fullbacks, Andy Robinson's better going forward and he's the other way. We couldn't pin them back at all, so it just created a lot of space in front of us, and I think there's no, there should have been a change here. Now, if you're going to defend, then that was the decision to defend in the second half. Bring on John Joe Kenny, bring on a more natural, defensive player than Iwobi, because you really, there's no point in Iwobi being out there just to defend. He's not a good defender. So then I think when Tom came on, it settled us down a bit. Obviously, Gylfi was a disaster, but I think it's just got. I think the issue for Evertonians overall is the mentality of it. I think we invite defeats onto ourselves, and I think Everton fans want to see that, us step forward and be that ruthless team that we talked about earlier, Baz, and win games, just come and destroy teams rather than be Everton, if you get what I mean. Sorry, Ped, go on.
No, I was just going to say, like, you're right, what you said there is perfect, because it is that, isn't it? It is. They didn't do anything really to upset us. They just put pressure on. They put a couple of players on who could hurt us if we allowed them to hurt us, and it was. It is that idea of, Everton this up or whatever, whereas really, we could have come off that pitch second half 3-1 up without any issues and controlled the second half, and people would have gone, we've controlled the second half, okay, we haven't scored, but we've done a professional performance, we haven't allowed them to do anything. But I think what annoyed me, like we were saying before, was it was just that we give up control. We were sloppy. You could see it early on, just a few misplaced passes. We done it in the first half, but then before we scored the second, we got a grip and we just started moving the ball. And once we got it going, and sometimes the passes were never passing for the sake of passing, but you look at the second goal, how many passes are involved. It has to start somewhere. It starts by just keeping the ball, moving it around, finding little angles, and then open that when you get around the edge of the box, like Iwobi did for the second goal. Like there's a little bit of magic, and the next time you've opened them up, you get the ball to the other side, and there's Luca Dino a couple of times for the second and the third. And I think that was the most annoying thing, that for some reason, it might have been tiredness, it might have been, but it was just the fact that we just didn't string that many solid passes together to just go through like 15, 16 passes, because that wears the opposition down, especially if you're 3-1 behind and you can't see where you're going to get any joy from. The opposition having the ball, even if they're not going anywhere, as long as they're not going backwards, which I notice we tend to do that as well. We keep the ball and inevitably we go further and further back. We have to start cutting that out as well. It's great to keep the ball, but not if you're going to keep going back and back and back. So it is the first week playing that system, and it'll be interesting to see where it carries on. Do you think that this will be the system going forward, or will this be the system till Seamus Coleman comes back?
Well, it should definitely be the system for me until Seamus Coleman comes back. I don't think changing it again this weekend and putting Ben Godfrey at right back or John Joe Kenny in from nowhere, not in the 18 and playing, I don't think that does anyone any favours. And I think the other thing, and we said this earlier in the week, I don't want Seamus coming back 90%. I want him 100%. There's no point in coming back and then limping off after an hour because his hamstring's gone again. It's gone 3 times this season already. We've only played 9 games in the league. So we need him fully fit. And if that means that we play this system for another couple of weeks until he is fully fit, then we look at it. But just the way we are at the minute, we've got the defenders to play. I'm just a great believer in playing to your strengths. So have a look at that squad, look at it and go, how can we make this team better with players that I actually believe in? He obviously looks at that bench. We talked about it. Me and you spoke about it this week. Me and Andy spoke about it as well previously. You look at that bench and he obviously goes down the bench and goes, really trust anybody on that bench at the moment. And that's why James stays on 15 minutes longer than he probably should have done. Whereas if you look at the centre-backs, you could go, well, I've got Keane, I've got Mina, I've got Holgate and I've got Godfrey. I can pick 3 out of them and there's a back 3 and it helps the midfield. We haven't got a right Kenny's, I'm not sure about John Joe Kenny, but Iwobi can play there and he takes us forward, like Andy said. But Luca Dean can play in the 3 or a 4. It's neither here nor there. Your 2 midfielders can do your job. James can cheat, can start over wide right and come into field. And you've got the front 2. So I just think at the minute, go with where your strengths are. And our strengths are, madly, even though we're letting goals in, at our centre-back position, because we've got 4 fit centre-backs and we've also got Jared Brantwaite still in the squad who's fit as well. So because we've tried Gylfi in midfield and it's not worked. We've tried Andre Gomes and he's dropped off. Tom Davies looks like he's a better sub at the minute. Delph is trains all week and isn't in the 18, so make it that what you will. So already that midfield we're looking and we're hoping it's Jean-Philippe Gbamin at some stage can make it 3. But just right now, that's what I would do, stay with the 3-4-3 or the 3-5-2.
Andy, is there a pattern? Have you seen a pattern of why we're conceding so many goals? Is there we've heard this thing about, it's the right-hand side, it's James Rodriguez not tracking back, or whoever the right back isn't doing their job. Are you seeing something? Because I don't think it's just it's not our defence. No. It's not our defence. It's not. They're not bad defenders, but for me, I think we allow the ball to get up the pitch far too easily. But are you seeing something in the numbers that show you where it's coming from that Everton can fix?
It's not really in the numbers per se. The issues, I think there's a couple, and they're not major issues, but all the minor issues come together. One would be, yes, James Rodriguez is a luxury player. He doesn't defend that well. Don't be wrong, he tries at times, but obviously he's not got the engine as he wants us to get around the pitch as much. So that's one issue. I think Alan and Decore are playing in roles that probably are not the best suited to them. He can play those roles really well, I think. But I think Alan's better destroyer, chasing down the ball, winning it back rather than trying to screen that back for him. When you have someone who gets pulled out of position all the time, it allows those passes through the midfield, which, just like you say, is where they come on the centre halves. And then I think the other issue then is Jeremy and Michael Keane, although when I looked at the stats for them as a partnership, they've actually done quite well, really. I think out of all the partnerships, apart from the Zuma Keane one, which by the way was fantastic numbers-wise, apart from that, me and Keane, they have played the most, by the way, the best number. However, in reality, they don't suit playing next to each other. Neither one of them understands. Both of them want to do the same thing all the time. And I think once you get Holgate fit and you get Ben Godfrey up to stay, I think it should be one of Ben Godfrey and Holgate and one of them two next to each other for that balance. Then I think will be better. I think it's just a couple of issues really like that. Not having Richarlison for the last couple of games as well as now, because he leads from the front, chases the ball down, he presses, he wins the ball back. That was an issue. But yeah, I don't think we've got a bad. Don't be wrong, Jordan Pickford early in the season, he's been fine of late. I'd say he's not been too bad. Is an issue. I don't like to say this, but this season he is statistically the worst goalkeeper in the Premier League for letting in more goals than what has been expected to him. Basically, that's bad. Kepa, he was below Kepa last season, but Kepa was worse. Now Kepa's at the team. I think they've got Mendy who's near the top now, and that's the difference it can make to a side. And I think so. There's 4 or 5 things there, and obviously when Gbamin comes back in, he's a bit more of a natural 6. Hopefully, if he can stay fit, that'll be something to help us. But we're just doing a bit of a transition. We shouldn't be conceding 2 goals. I think Carlo using this back 3 and getting them cohesive will be a way to start. Getting clean sheets hopefully.
I look at the 3-4-3 or the 3-5-2, whichever way you want to look at it, and it reminds me of when Conte done that with Chelsea, and he started it. And at first, it wasn't great. But then someone like Victor Moses, who I liken to... Well, but I liken him to like Alex Iwobi.
It's interesting, though, he's Nigerian. He plays similar to
but exactly,
player,
but Moses, when he played as a winger, was hit and miss. Some weeks you'd look at him and go, oh my God, he's a cracking little player. And then other times you'd watch him and go, he's awful. And I think Alex Iwobi has fallen into that same thing. And yet, when Victor Moses went wing back for Chelsea, he was brilliant. And they actually they won the league. I'm not saying Everton would win the league, but I'm saying they won the league because once they got in tune with playing it, everyone was on the same page then. And maybe that's what Everton could benefit from.
Yeah, I think similar to that. I think Coleman showed that he can play as like a right centre back. I think if that's another option if you want to get Coleman back on the team and have that leadership. I think Cesar was the same one that Conte played that right centre back role rather than right back because he wasn't the most attacking right back anymore. And it worked really well for him. So yeah, I think obviously Iwobi has got to be consistent now. That's the big thing for him. He has to put 4 or 5. I know he's had a couple of good summer appearances lately, but we need starts where he puts in those performances before we can trust them fully. But also, if he keeps playing well, and also if you want to go back to 4-3-3 and you don't want to play Gomez or Sigurdsson, James can go into the middle to 10 and have Iwobi on the right. So there are options for us. So sadly, I know this is mad, but I hinges on Alex Iwobi's consistency here. But at least we've got some options to get us through to possibly the summer, where then we'll obviously buy 3 or 4 players and make the squad stronger again.
I think what's interesting about Alex Iwobi is that when he started games, it's generally because Richarlison isn't playing. So if Richarlison is in the side and he does play, I think the pressure is off Iwobi to be Richarlison.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that will be a big help to him. And also because if he does play right wing back, that is a problem area. And if he does, you know, it sounds stupid, but we've been looking for a solution in the last few weeks, and a performance like that, which, don't get me wrong, Iwobi was good on. He wasn't amazing. He was good. That was a solid performance, and I think you're seeing all the best things from him. Like he wasn't over defending. He didn't have to over defend, but he also didn't have to do anything that wasn't naturally what he'd do anyway. I don't think. I think he said he played wing back a few times for Arsenal. So I don't think there was anything unnatural. So I think it's just a case of if he does get into a run of games, I think he'd have to have really bad games, if that makes sense, to look bad there. Because I do think that position fits him. He can cross the ball well, he can dribble well, and he can get back enough to help out because we're playing three. So I think that's up to him now. Like Andy said there, it's about consistency. If he's played, which there's a good chance he'll be playing, then, you know, and like you just said there about Seamus Coleman. Seamus Coleman could come in as the right side of centre-back if needs be. He played there last season. We've seen other players doing it now, and you've got that extra little bit of pace. Takes that stress off his body as well. You know, up and down, up and down, up and down. Iwobi's in his mid-20s. He should be able to play right wing-back without any problem.
The thing with Iwobi as well is if he gets his physical condition up, he's not slow. He's a big physical lad. You know, he's got good physique on him. But he does travel with the ball, and having James drop into those central areas then, and then having Iwobi make the runs. Because let's be honest, the reality of Everton is we should be able to have 3 centre-backs playing in a curve, so covering everywhere, and Alan, just at the moment, because that's the way we're playing, sitting. Everybody else should be on the edge of the opposition's penalty area. And if that's the case, and that's what we've seen with the second and third goal at the weekend, is that everyone was high because Iwobi carried the ball. And because we had that many numbers, it's difficult to mark against. You watch the top teams in the division, and you watch the likes of Leicester even, teams like that who were doing well. They've got a lot of bodies in and around the penalty area when crosses are coming in.
Does this mean that Alan really has to start just sitting in front of that back four and doing nothing else then? Because you mentioned before about him doing maybe something that was a little bit alien to him. And we have seen him in some of the games not go missing, but go chasing. Do you think that now, Andy, has to just, if for this to work properly, he has to just sit in front of that back three? Sorry.
It's about positional discipline, isn't it? You know, don't get me wrong, you don't want to say to Alan, sit there and be more styling, because that's not his game. You do want him to go aggressively chase the ball down, but it's picking your spots. I think let's be honest, Alan's quick. He's got enough pace, but he's not quick, is he? He doesn't cover the ground as quick as, say, a Garner Gay did. So if he makes a decision, runs out, and the ball is gone, I think he was out wide there for the second goal of the weekend. He just went back. The play went beyond him. You see, and then he's out of position. Then he needs to make better decisions on that, and that'll take a bit of work from him. And he's a good enough player to do it. But yeah, we just need a bit more positional discipline from him, just to sit in, just to pick up the ball in the width of the penalty area. We don't need him out wide trying to shut things down. I know. Obviously, that's his game because he's very tenacious and wants to get in there. But we just sit in front of the back four, block those passing lanes, and let the centre halves obviously cover the rest behind them.
Yeah, because the Corey really hasn't got that kind of discipline either, as he's not in his natural game to be that disciplined player. So one of them's going to have to do it, and it's going to have to be Alan. And really, that's for us. I suppose that's what we bought him for, isn't it? To be that defensive midfielder. I know he's a little bit more. I know that's not what his natural game is, and it certainly wasn't at Napoli, but I don't know whether Gbamin could be that natural play, but then you're thinking, then there's an extra midfielder in there, and you're thinking, well, where are we going to fit all these players in? So
don't worry about it.
No, I know that.
We want that.
No. But what I'm saying is that one of them has to be a player who just sits in front of the back defence.
No, I agree. But I think the thing with, if we can get Gbamin fit and he can become that important player, then there can be times when we take James out the team just to give his body.
But even if it's during the game.
And you can have the core then as the man who's breaking. But also what it enables you to do is we can then become a 3-5-2 and we can get the Richarlison closer to Dom, which will benefit the both of them as well. Yeah. So it gives us a little bit of a different outlook on the way we're playing the game. And I think that's what you need. I think the problem Everton suffered over the last few games is just that 4-3-3. Once people start going, well, James comes inside, and we didn't have Richarlison on the other side, we then became easy to nullify or easier to nullify.
And also, like I think Andy was just sort of hinting at then, it is putting all your eggs in one basket, isn't it? It's like that, and you can't do that every game, especially with the December and January coming up that we've got. You just can't put your eggs in one. You can't have all your best players on the pitch at the same time. No. There's going to be games where you look at it and say, right, today we need a bit more solid midfield. James, you come on, sit on the bench, especially if it's like a midweek game. You know, if we're playing Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, he's not going to be able to play all those games, and he's certainly not going to be able to play at that level, because we've seen that in the last few weeks. Once he sort of, it's like I think with James, it's almost like what I've noticed is it almost like he needs a reset at some point. Like he needs a game out because what you get from him during that game doesn't really. We said it, didn't we? In hindsight, he should never have played the Southampton game. He probably should have sat out and then played the Newcastle game, because he ends up missing the Newcastle game in a game where probably his creativity would have been the difference.
That's key, really, because we knew when we got him. Let's be honest. I think Everton fans know we didn't get him for free because because that was the price. We got him for free because he had injury troubles. But what you do is because he can win your matches. He only plays 30 games a season and misses 8. If you win 70% of those 30, you're there or thereabouts. It's just about managing that. Get that man. And Carlo, don't get me wrong, he knows how to manage players. I think at the moment, though, unfortunately, I think it's that fear that we need to put points on the board and get up there early, and then hopefully, maybe if some opportunities come up in January, strengthen, and then he can start resting James. But it's just how we manage him through this period. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but listen, at the end of the day, we got the 3 points. It feels a little bit, well, it feels a lot better now. Like you said before, that the performance is sort of going out your mind, and we're turning our attention to Saturday's game against Leeds. So yeah, we're in 6th place. We're after 9 games, basic quarter of the season gone. I'm quite happy where we are.
If Everton repeat, and I know it's easy to say, and it doesn't never work out this way, but if Everton were to repeat the same in each quarter, we end up with 64 points, which got Champions League last season. Yeah. So if Everton got 64 points, we'd get in the Europa League, which is the aim. So it's winning 5 of every 9 games. It's difficult to do, but if Everton could do it, for the first quarter, you've got to say it's a decent return.
And we could definitely get near matching it in the second, in the second quarter. Yeah, then you get to the turn of you get to January, and then you do have a look at what you need, don't you? And if there's a couple of outstanding players that maybe you wouldn't take a chance on. But otherwise, if you think there's a sniff of Europe and they're going to pay for Europe, then you might as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. Can change everything.
Good stuff. Right, let's move on. Obviously, it's been announced that there's a chance that fans will be able to come back into stadiums. 4,000 if you're in Tier 1. We never get in Tier 1. Far too many people are handy about.
It's an accusation.
I'll just leave it there.
Okay.
You don't wash their hands, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Listen, I've heard the rumours about you. You do not sing happy birthday when you wash your hands.
No, just say it and then walk away.
Yeah, Tier 1, 4,000.
Tier 1, 2,000 for Tier 2, which is a chance we can go into. And nothing for Tier 3. You get nothing.
Nothing.
So is there a point of any of this? Is there is there a point having 2,000? Because most cities, let's be honest, will be lucky to be in Tier 2, won't they? Let's be honest. Tier 2 or Tier 3. So most cities where big clubs are, it'll be 2,000. Now, 2,000 rattling around Old Trafford, 2,000 rattling around, Anfield or the Emirates or whatever. Is it going to make a difference? Is there any point to this, or is it almost just a way of saying, oh look what you can win? Or I don't know. What are the positives of this? Give me the positives.
Well, first of all, is it 2,000 at Old Trafford?
But it would be, wouldn't it? It's 2,000.
It's 5% of capacity.
I thought it was nailed on. You could only have 4,000 maximum.
They can have 4,000
in Tier 1.
Oh, I thought it was that they could have 4,000. We can have 2.
Right. Let's assume it's 2,000 and 4,000. Right?
I thought that's what I thought. It was 4,000 maximum outdoor,
okay.
and 2,000 if you're in tier 2.
Okay.
I didn't think it was percentages.
All right. Well,
but if it is, it is. If it isn't, it isn't.
Yeah, well, even just whatever it is, the percentage, 2,000. For me, when you look at the whole situation and you move it away from football for a minute, we're in a lockdown at the moment. And we don't come out of a lockdown until the 2nd of December, which is next week, isn't it?
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. So we come out of lockdown next Wednesday.
Yeah.
And they're talking 10 days later at Goodison, potentially there'll be 2,000 Evertonians in the stadium.
For the Chelsea game.
For the Chelsea game, right? But we're also getting instructions that for Christmas, 3 households is maximum for a few days. Between the 23rd and the 27th of December, you can have a little mix with someone. It's very strict, but yet we can go to a football stadium with 2,000 strangers and sit in that. Right? So that's one thing which I think it's just a little bit early. I think we're just coming out of a lockdown. I think we should have looked at this for maybe the middle of January and gone, you know what? 6 weeks after the lockdown or 4 weeks after the lockdown, we're going to be looking to get football fans back in stadiums. Yeah. Let Christmas play out, see where we are, and then we want you back. Because as the vaccine starts hitting people, then we want to be trying to build our way back up towards the end of the season and getting a good amount into stadiums. So that's one aspect of it that I'm a little bit thinking, are we going just a little bit too early? Because, listen, I seen something yesterday saying they're kind of expecting another lockdown in January after Christmas. So it's almost like
third wave.
You can go to game for one. You can go to one game or maybe 2 and then we'll lock down again. Yeah. So it's a little bit mad for me. The flip side to that is it a good idea for football clubs? I guess for them, it's almost like, when they do any kind of preparation, any kind of test event, how are we going to do this? Because Goodison's not going to go no one to 40,000, is it? So therefore, we're going in with hand sanitizer and this, that, and the other. So it's a test event for them. For a football club's perspective, probably going to lose money.
Oh, yeah. It's not. I've seen people say that. So, seen people say, oh, greedy Premier League clubs. Premier League clubs aren't making any money off this. They're not going to make any money off this. Stewards and having to be like, I think they'd probably have to be at max capacity for stewards and maybe not police.
Sale,
well, they probably wouldn't be allowed to open much, Andy. So, I mean, I suppose the way to look at it would be they'd probably be opening, say, Goodison, say 500 people in each stand. So Lower Gladys, Park End, Main Stand, and maybe Upper Bullens, say. So 500 people in there. Maybe if they staggered the times of when they came on, so you have to be in the Galaxy by, you have to be in there by 1:30, let's say, and staggered all the times for the different places. I think that could work, but on a sporting level, and what are you like? I think Klopp's come out, and I think Lampard have come out, and they've said things on the sporting level of it. Do you think it's fair if Everton could have 2,000 and there was someone else who could have 4,000? And we had to play them. Do you think that's going to give any kind of sporting advantage to the team who got that 4,000 in?
It's hard to say. I guess we have seen a massive, glut of goals since. Well, it's slowing down now. We did see initially a massive glut of goals without fans. So will 2,000 fans make a difference? Probably not, because you're not going to get a bear pit atmosphere out of 2,000 fans. Depends which fans, of course. But I think it is slightly unfair. Again, obviously it's 2,000 fans. It's probably more than what you get from an under-23s game. Because it's outdoors, I can get why they try it, because obviously there's only a certain part of the stadium that's indoors, and you're outdoors, it's less chance of catching it, whatever, I think they're just getting the foot on the door so they can start ramping up. But then, as Baz says, if you're going to get your foot in the door and then have to close the door again, then open the door again, it seems that you may as well just. I think allowing fans back in the league. Obviously, in League One and League Two, they're really short of money without that injection. But as you say, with the hand sanitizer, probably with the screens that you'll probably need and the extra layer of security, are they going to be able to make money on 2,000 fan pricing? Probably not. So probably it'd be better to bail the AFL out to the government and then wait on the fans. It's a difficult one, really. I understand people's excitement because some people's whole weekends are based around going to the match with the mates, and maybe that's the only time they get to see them, especially in this period. But it's a difficult one, and I think already the consternation is about that Man United game on the 23rd of December. Who's going to get allowed to go to that? Because it's a big game, and I think you're going to cause problems there. So I don't know. I don't really know how they play it, really, to be honest with you. It's a difficult one.
Well, that's the other side of it, isn't it? It's the ticket distribution, which is just going to cause absolute carnage. I think, among some people, people want to know the criteria. People want to know the ins and outs of how someone got picked and how someone didn't get picked. I know there's a ballot. That could cause a few issues when you just think when we're not all there, people are fine with that because it's all or nothing. But suddenly you're asking 2,000 people to go, and then I can see a few fingers being pointed.
It's just the club can't win, really.
Yeah,
by doing it, they can't. No matter how they do it, they can't win. And like I said, I just think it's too early. I think we've had some good news of late with the vaccine stuff and with the cases dropping in Liverpool, but they're dropping because it's a lockdown. Let's have it right.
Yeah.
So let's just have, let's just have another 4 weeks of not going again, and then maybe January start looking at, can we try it? Can we do it?
Do you think that maybe? I mean, now's too early. Now would be far too early. But let's say we get to March, April time, and the vaccine's been a little bit more widely disputed and
weather as
distributed. Well. Do you think that the club or the clubs might start asking for certificates of like that you've had the vaccine? Because I know some of the airlines, Qantas have already come out and said we'll be asking for a certificate to say you've had the vaccine before you can come on. And I just wonder whether, and this is where it becomes a little bit a little bit 1984, doesn't it? Where people haven't walking around, and I'm not bothered. It doesn't bother me, but it will. We've already seen some people not, against the vaccine. I just wonder whether if football clubs did start asking, or anyone in general started asking for certificates of vaccines, what that can do to a society. I don't want to go too overboard there, but you know what I mean, because it is that whole 1984 thing, isn't it? Of like, are you certified? Next thing it'll be Starship Troopers. We'll have to, we'll have to have done our service to make sure we get a job.
Obviously.
Go on, Ant. Go on.
Go on. I was going to say. Obviously, this would require Everton to build whatever we don't know.
Say that again, Anne, because we completely lost you.
So I was going to say this. That would, probably involve Everton, putting a system in place where you could upload a document onto your season ticket profile. And, we know Everton have had trouble uploading the stream, never mind in the past. So it's, it's a funny one. Isn't it? It's like I just think that's rife for disaster. And sometimes it's better to let the clubs just be themselves. I think Everton would. I worry about that sort of thing. I think the easiest thing now, because you can drive, people drive to the match, you can go and get one of those tests, can't you?
Yeah.
You drive and you get your results in an hour. I suppose if you then go and show there at the match, that's a bit easier than the vaccination.
Who pays for that though, and that's the problem with that though. Who pays for that? The Premier League would have to pay for that, wouldn't he? If and then the Premier League might say, well, it's not to do with us, it's up to the club. So who'd pay for that testing? And that testing can't be cheap. And then you'd have to say, well, who's running the testing? And if it's the NHS, well, someone will go, hang on, that's a misuse of services and all that. So that, in principle, it's a really good idea. I think that's a good idea that you are. And I think we've seen that for we were talking about this last week. Some nursing homes and stuff are having that. If people want to go and visit elderly relatives, they have a tester now before. And they go in and get to see them. For a Premier League game, that would be a huge logistical exercise, and it would be who was paying for that exercise. So I do think it's a good idea, but the vaccine thing, I think, if you could get, let's say, 25,000 into Goodison, say, and that 25 had the vaccine, I don't know whether that would encourage more people to get the vaccine if you can go back to the match before the end of the season, but
That's going to be an issue. Would they be able to turn around and say, "Oh, I'm not getting vaccination, but you're persecuting me," and it's not by law. You don't have to have the vaccine. You know what those people are like.
It's going to be interesting, but I do believe this is a little bit too premature.
Do you just think it's
coming out of a lockdown?
Well, I was going to say, do you just think it's one of those things, you know, that politicians say, and will last for a couple of weeks, and then they'll go, right? Because Christmas feels like that anyway, doesn't it? The whole three household. What I love about the three household thing is just causing murder, because everyone's like it's like this giant jigsaw that no one can, like, you know what I mean?
I think the only thing in the defence of them, and I haven't defended them all year, so I'm going to try my best not to really defend them now, but I just think they're almost on a no-win thing either as well, laid out the government, because everyone likes seeing people at Christmas and all that, and if they'd have just said you're not allowed to see anyone, it would have caused even more trouble. People would have gone and done it anyway. So I guess they're just trying to go, listen, we understand for a few days you're going to want to see your family, so we're kind of saying it's all right if you do this. We all know that people are going to do it anyway, and there's no way. The only way to ensure that the rate continues to drop is to just literally go and sit in your house and don't go nowhere for everybody. And
sounds like a plan.
It's not going to happen, is it? Because people have got to work and people have got to make money and people have got to do other things.
Only fools and horses. Get it on.
But anyway, we'll see. But I just feel like this particular thing at the moment is just it's probably 4 to 6 weeks too early for me. But that's...
We'll get one game out of it. We'll only get one game out of it.
Yeah, and they'll be locked down again.
Some people will get one game out of it. You know who you are. Everyone's like, is it me? Is it, no, it's not
hospitality.
Me. Let's move on. Saturday, obviously, Leeds United, Goodison Park. Who have Bielsa, I've noticed, been nominated for? Basil loved this. He's been nominated for World Manager of the Year. Yeah, by FIFA.
Do you think? Without me like going on about Bielsa, because he's done a decent job there, but is there a bit of overhype about him? I've seen a couple of journalists say this the other day. It's not like Leeds got 110 points in the Championship, won it with 3 months to spare, have come up and are in the top 3. Is it the 12th or 13th? They've done okay. 15th. Don't get me wrong, they've done okay. They're entertaining. There's no doubts about that. But Slaven Bilic got West Brom up.
I think what this is like Martin Scorsese, he did a decent, what was I don't know what the last film, what he won the Oscar, The Departed, I think it was, and it was a good film, but it wasn't as good as Goodfellas or like Raging Bull. It's like a lifetime achievement.
I was going to say, is it Lifetime Achievement Award?
Don't get me wrong, I think Bielsa's a really good coach, and I was having this conversation with someone earlier, he's probably going to be remembered more than some successful coaches because he has been so influential, and that counts, being influential counts. But no, he's never won nothing. He's won the Championship. I think he's won one Argentine league. I think one of the opening one years ago. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Bielsa's in terms of the influence he's had. But no, he's not one of the best coaches in the world. He hasn't done a job in the last 12 months that would, surpass anything that I suppose the German fell over the road. And, others have done. So
exactly,
you've got to consider it like that. I think because he's in England now and we're such an important media market, his profile's been raised. Because when he was in France at Marseille, obviously Paris hates Marseille, we got that problem. When he was in Bilbao again, Castellan's not a fan of the Basques again, and he was in a small market then, and now he's in this big market. I think he's finally getting the dues that people think he's owed, I guess.
I suppose there's also a mystique about him as well, isn't it? Because for years, I think people heard about Bielsa, but didn't, he was Pep Guardiola's mentor and he was this other fella's mentor and everyone looked up to him. And now that we've got him, but even though he's in this country, he has a translator and he seems to be this sort of, he seems to be a very down-to-earth fella as well. There doesn't seem to be any airs or graces about him.
Seen him in like the supermarket and all that with his Leeds trackie on. They love him, don't they?
It's not quite Steve Bruce in a kebab house.
No, it's not Steve.
No, it's not that level.
It's not Chris Wilder going bevying in the community club with his mates.
But he does seem very down-to-earth, and that does seem to suit the club Leeds. And obviously, with everything that Leeds has gone through, to get them up, and not only get them up the year after they should have got up as well. It's like everyone thought that was his one chance, but he stayed. And there was even talk in the summer, wasn't it, that he wasn't going to stay to see him in the Premier League, and then he signed the contract. So obviously he's idolised, and you can understand why. But they've done all right, like you said before. They've done all right. They're in a bit of a dodgy run at the moment. I think they beat Villa 3-0, didn't he? And since that, they've lost twice, 4-1, and they drew at the weekend 0-0 with Arsenal. So they are a good side. They have a good system that is different from a lot of other teams. You know, the real high press, pushing almost 5 players on the opposition's back fours. But like everyone who comes up, or everyone who's not truly a top 4 or top 6 team, once that squad starts getting stretched a little bit, and also because they come off the back of only a 6-week break as well, it feels like they're just in a little moment now where they are vulnerable and they're not playing at the highest level.
The big concern for them is without Calvin Phillips, they can see goals. He was back at when they played Arsenal, so that was probably why they got an elbow. But there's rumours that he's got a knock, so he might miss this weekend. And I think without him, they don't really have that defensive midfielder who can do that Bielsa role. I think that's really key to the team. And then when they play like Matthias Klick in there, they start to get whacked because he just can't play that role. So it is really, I think it's hard to replicate players like that. We found that we can't replicate Richarlison anyway. And when you take those players out of a irreplaceable your squad, and you are already a bit open anyway, then you do become a bit fragile. And obviously, relying on Patrick Bamford to score goals, he has done so far this season, but he can obviously go through dry patches. I wonder if Leeds would have got up last season if there wasn't a lockdown, because they usually have that blip in the second half of the season because it doesn't make them so hard. They had that time off. I don't get me wrong, the mental fatigue was probably still there, but the legs were probably saved a lot, and then they came back and got the points they needed. And I think it's very difficult in the Premier League. You need to have 25, good players. I know Everton haven't got that at the moment, but I think it's going to be tough for them in the second half of the season, especially with the schedule that we're on now.
Yeah, they've done well. They're a handful. They make you battle for everything. They don't give it any, no quarters given with them. And you're right, Calvin Phillips back at the weekend is important. I've seen things saying that he'll miss the game. I don't know whether he will. The other week, Lindelof had no chance of playing against Everton on the Friday night and was played at Saturday at 12:30. So we're going to assume Phillips is in there. They switched between the 3 at the back and the 4. They've gone back to 4 at the moment, and Phillips sitting just in front of it. 4-1-4-1, and isn't it? So, but you're right, Ped, that the high press and the thing about it is it's being able to break the press. If you can break their press, they're in trouble, because you look at their back line. I don't think, they're not amazing, are they, as a team? Individually, they are brilliant the way he's put them together and the way they work. But it'll be a very, very tricky game for Everton. It's one of them where Everton could quite easily win. I'd love to say 4-0, but we won't keep a clean sheet. So Everton could quite easily win 3 or 4-1, but could quite easily get beat 3 or 4-1. That's how it feels at the minute, just the way we are.
I think we'll create chances. I think we'll create enough chances to score goals. And obviously, I think once you get beyond that midfield, I think, as you say, Baz, the press, you can break them down. It's then obviously keeping them off us, because they do create a lot of chances with that system, because it's perpetual movement, a lot of movement. And I think if you're going to play 3 at the back, you need to drill them this week. And especially, I think we need to play Mason Holgate and Ben Godfrey, besides probably Michael Keane at the moment, have that movement, people who can defend in space, because there's going to be a lot of those slide rule passes in behind for Jack Harrison, Rafinha and Bamford to try and get onto. It's going to be a tough game, no doubt. Now, we joked at the weekend it could be 7-4. Let's be honest, it could be one of those type of games. But I think our quality in the final third, I think, is a level above theirs with the players we have. And if we can get a couple of early goals, I think we can take the sting out of them.
Yeah, Bamford's obviously been in great form this season. I think everyone had written him off, hadn't he? He didn't look like a Premier League striker, but he's got, he's hit the ground running, and he's got goals early, got that confidence now. I think his goals per shot record is fantastic. He's not someone who needs loads and loads of chances. He's done really well so far this season. So I suppose it's about, well, they'll be talking about Dominic Calvert-Lewin, stopping Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I think Bamford's quite similar. He's someone who just sits around the penalty box and hopes that a chance falls to him, and let's hope we don't allow that to happen.
They had a lot of, they ended up with 25 attempts at goal at the weekend against Arsenal. Arsenal had a different prophecy. I can't work them out. I can't understand how they've gone so negative. But Leeds do attack, and but you look at the week before or the game before, Crystal Palace beat them 4-1. And you look at Palace, and Palace are very average side, and they've got, don't get me wrong, they've got a couple of players who can hurt you, but and, you know, beaten 4-1 at home by Leicester, although that was a slightly harsh result, the Leicester one. But
well, they're two teams who are like Leeds and Kryptonite, and this is what probably where it doesn't play into our advantage, is Crystal Palace will just sit, soak up all that pressure, Leeds start tired, and then they'll let you on the counter. Leicester obviously have Jamie Vardy to be able to do that, don't they, which is the issue. I think this is where we have to be sort of a bit smart, the way we play, and it's either go full guns blazing like we did early doors against Fulham, or it's that soak up a bit of pressure and then start hitting them. That's why my suggestion was you play 5-3-2, maybe have Tom on in the first half, soak up that pressure with the three in midfield, and then bring James on to win the game, when Leeds tired a little, and then start picking those little pockets of space. That was my idea anyway.
Yeah, and in terms of, 3 points, obviously be huge. We've got Burnley the week after, and then we go into December. You don't have to look at some of the fixtures, that they're very, very, very tough. Got some very, very tough fixtures coming week after week. So it would be a huge 3 points just because the league now is going to start in the next month. It's going to start just separating a little bit, isn't it? You see it at the moment. There's teams who are on the same points or within one win of the same point of each other. It's not going to happen in the next few weeks. In a month's time, you're going to start seeing those gaps appearing. And it's up to us to be in one of those upper echelon positions, isn't it? Because I always think once you come out of December and January, wherever you are then is essentially where you are going to be for the rest of the season, whether it's fighting for mid-table or fighting for top 6 or whatever. So
that's your Leicester last year.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why. Yeah, but Leicester last season, though, they were 3rd or whatever, and they ended up being 5th. So that's the group they would have been in anyway. That's what I'm saying. Even if you come into the end of the season, you have that bad run like Leicester, you're only falling a certain amount. You know what I mean? It's
you put the points on the board, you don't drop the way it's more difficult to get to start badly and get up than it is to start well and finish. So I think what we've got to do, we've got this game, we've got Burnley. If Everton can take 6 points out.
I mean, if we can take 9 points back,
well, it's because before Fulham, I said if we took 7 out the 3 games, we'll have done well. But now we've won that away game. You look now and think, well, if we can beat Leeds at home, which we should be able to beat them, it'll be a tough game. Don't get me wrong, but if we're talking about Europe, this is a team in the bottom half of the league. Other teams have beat them. So if we could beat Leeds, we then go to Burnley, who have just had their first win the other night, but no crowd. It's half more and all that, and you could beat them. Then you're right, you're going into them big games then against the likes of Chelsea, but then I think we've got City in December as well, and probably Arsenal. You're looking at them thinking, well, get a point against them, and you keep it ticking along. But you can only go one game at a time.
You say that, but it would be important. It's very important if we could get back on a run. Picking up a wins, a draws. Get back on a solid run.
We have to beat, as Baz just said, we have to beat those teams who are outside the top 8 or 9 teams, because they're the ones where you rack up your points. If you win every game like that season, that's 50 points nearly, and then you obviously start trying to beat your top 6 teams. They're not the top 6 anymore, or the big 6 are they anymore. So half them are down the league. So,
well, that's it, isn't it? It's a big opportunity now. And if Everton, the only thing I'd say about the likes of James and that for this weekend is it's 6 days. Yeah. It's 6 days before he's had to play again, and then it's another week. So he's getting that rest. He's played more games in the opening 10 weeks of this season than I think he has probably in the last 3 seasons, or certainly the last 2 seasons. So, if you include Colombia, so a week for him of rest early on, and then build it back up. We might see a nice sharp James again at the weekend, because he's over that injury now, I think, as well. So therefore, if it's just about resting your body and then ready to go.
And the other players, Alan, Richarlison, the other players you win in South America, they'll all be
Iwobi as well. I've played 2 games for Nigeria, so
fingers crossed it's 3 points come Saturday night. Otherwise, Strictly's going to be ribbons, let's be honest. Let's be honest.
Or Basel Room Football on WhatsApp.
It is a bit rubbish at the moment, and be honest.
Do you know what it is? You know what it is, and it's when he gets that PlayStation 5, all his worries will just disappear.
They'll be all 10.
Yeah, honestly, it'll just all disappear. There you go. It's another podcast done. Big thanks to Andy for joining us. We'll have to get him on more if we can. He's a very busy man, though. He's
very busy.
He's trying to keep about 4 teams going and separate leagues going.
He's going to
conflict of interest with Andy. He's going
to go the way he gets his tennis centre and have a COVID test and then come in when he's clear.
There you go. I thought you were going to say he's going for a game
Well, he
of
might go and
doubles.
have a game of
Go
tennis
with
as well.
game
Why
of
not?
doubles.
Got a game of doubles.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not Tory. I don't play tennis.
Okay, that's fair enough. You know,
Hello, lads. Fair enough as well.
right, there you go. We'll be back next week. See you then.